Okay. Okay, we're on the Ein Gimel Amud Aleph, third line, and we're in the middle of the sugya about Orel, uncircumcised. And yesterday it came in the discussion. It came up without making much notice of it that Orel is not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. The main Mishnah that spoke about Orel is not allowed to eat Truma. And in the discussion we had yesterday, it did mention about the Kal V'chomer. It mentioned Shekain. How did it say here? Tful Yom Mutter B'Maiser, and the Gemara meant to say, it goes without saying, that Orel is Asur B'Maiser. So that wasn't explained, and the Gemara is going to, that's going to be today's subject. So today is going to be still about Orel, the issue of Bris Milah, but we're going into Zrom today. Today is going to be a lot of issues about the agricultural laws, about Truma, Maiser, Bikurim, and the Gemara is going to discuss this point, if Orel is allowed to eat Maiser Sheni. Maiser Sheni, again, just to recall, Maiser Sheni is on the first, second, fourth, and fifth years of the Shemitah cycle. So a person, besides taking Ma'aser Rishon, which he does every year, that's a tenth of the produce that goes to the Levi. Also, there's a tenth that he takes to Yerushalayim and eats it. It has to be eaten in Yerushalayim, and it has to be Torah. He has to be Torah. And another question is, if Orel, uncircumcised person, would be allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. Again, Rashi at the beginning of the parak says that Orel, why is he uncircumcised? So Rashi says because he wasn't allowed to, because of medical reasons. He saw that his brothers, they saw that the brothers had died. Tosha says, in town, they bring down possibility that that wouldn't be considered an oral, maybe not. But as far as our sugya, if he's uncircumcised, that would be a sugya over here, if he's allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. So that's how the sugya starts. Third line, the people ask Rav Sheshes, is an uncircumcised person allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni? What's the question? By Korban Pesach, we said that by Korban Pesach it says openly that Orel may not lead to Korban Pesach, and by Truma we had two drushes to learn out, either from Gzer Shava or from Ish Ish. That was by Truma. How about Ma'aser Sheni? Kiechet Yalef Pesach mi Ma'aser le'inyan Aninus, Yalef Nami Ma'aser mi Pesach le'inyan Areilus. Odilma Chomo mikal Yalef Kal michomo lo Yalef. How do we know that? Is the by Ma'aser Sheni, it says that it's not that a onain is not allowed to eat Ma'aser. That says openly. That's the place where it says that a onain is not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. And the Gemara learned out that Korban Pesach also is not allowed to be eaten in the state of Aninus from Ma'aser Sheni. We learn out Pesach from Ma'aser. Maybe also we learn out Ma'aser from Pesach. Means by Ma'aser Sheni it says that the onain is not allowed to eat it. By Pesach it says that an Orel is not allowed to eat the Korban Pesach. Is it a two-way direction to learn out one from the other? So here it says the same way we learn out Pesach from Ma'aser le'inyan Aninus, that the Korban Pesach, Onain is not allowed to eat the Korban Pesach. So too learn out the opposite way. Learn out the chumras of Ma'aser to Pesach. Yalef Nami Ma'aser mi Pesach, from Pesach to Ma'aser. Le'inyan Areilus, just like Korban Pesach, an Orel is not allowed to eat Korban Pesach. So too Ma'aser. Tosfos explains that was going, if it will be Gzer Shava. If it will be Gzer Shava between the two, means how do you know that you're not allowed to, that a Korban Pesach is not allowed to eat Ba'aninus, that an Onain is not allowed to eat Korban Pesach? It doesn't say openly. Here the Gemara, Tosfos says the Gemara is questioning if it's a Gzer Shava or is it a Kal V'chomer. If it's a Gzer Shava, then it's going to be a two-way street. Then you can learn out each one from the other. So then the same way you learn out Pesach from Ma'aser, you can learn Ma'aser from Pesach. And just like Pesach, Orel is not allowed to eat Pesach, so too, and I was not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. If it's only a Kal V'chomer, so then it's only going to be one direction, because Pesach is more Chamor than Ma'aser Sheni. So Kal V'chomer, if a Ma'aser Sheni, which is Kal, it's not allowed to, it's not allowed to eat. It's a Kal V'chomer Pesach, but the other way it's not going to work. Even though by Korban Pesach we find that it's Aser for an Orel, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to be Aser by something which is more Kal, which is going to be Ma'aser Sheni. So that's the first question. That's what we're holding right now. Is there an Issa for? That's the question the Gemara is holding by now. Is it Issa for a Orel to eat Ma'aser Sheni? If anybody missed the beginning of the question, we're not going to say the details, but the question is an Orel allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni? That's the question. Is an oral allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni? And the Gemara had two studim, and now we're going to look for proofs. So Shesha said I could bring a proof from Mishnayos. So this is a Mishnah in Bikurim, and the Mishnah in Bikurim is judging or not judging. It's comparing. It's comparing three issues over there. There's Truma, there's Bikurim, and there's Ma'aser Sheni. Truma goes to the Kohen. The person is supposed to take a part of his produce, but the Raisa doesn't say an amount. And it says 50th, 2%, and he's supposed to give it to the Kohen. That's Truma. Bikurim is when a person brings his first fruit, he brings it to the Beis HaMikdash, also goes to the Kohen. And generally, it's also the same thing as Truma. We're going to see that not exactly. And Ma'aser, we said at Ma'aser Sheni that a person takes a tenth of his produce on the first, second, fourth, and fifth years of the Shemitah cycle, brings it to Yerushalayim. That's Ma'aser Sheni. So it's very interesting. Mishnah is in Bikurim that compares all three of them, and it says in what ways Truma and Bikurim are similar, different than Ma'aser, in which way Bikurim and Ma'aser are similar, different than Truma, in which way Truma and Ma'aser are similar, different than Bikurim. It takes these three and it shows in which ways they're comparable and which way they're different. So the Mishnah, the more to bring down the Mishnayos, I just made a chart if it helps anybody, just to we can look at the chart a little bit just to see what the Mishnah is going to say over here. One Mishnah says the similarities between Truma and Bikurim versus Ma'aser Sheni. And it says the similarities, the common denominator between Truma and Bikurim, which Ma'aser does not have, is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 points that Truma and Bikurim have in common that Ma'aser does not have. And we'll go through it outside, then we'll see it in the Gemara. It's a Mishnah that the Gemara is quoting in Bikurim. Misa. Misa means that if a non-Kohen would eat Truma or Bikurim, so the penalty is Misa B'dei Shamayim, heavenly death. It doesn't mean that Bezin kills him, but it means that he's Chayv Misa B'dei Shamayim, which usually means someone that dies before 60. That's usually how it's translated. But whatever it means, there's Chayv Misa B'dei Shamayim. And Ma'aser doesn't have that. If somebody eats Ma'aser Sheni incorrectly, he eats it out of Yerushalayim, which is not supposed to, but the punishment is not going to be Misa B'dei Shamayim. Another comparison is Truma and Bikurim have Chomesh, means that if somebody ate Truma, a non-Kohen, not Truma or Bikurim, by mistake, the Shogeg, so he has to pay, and he also has on a fifth. He has that on a fifth. Besides paying the Karen, also a Chomesh. By Ma'aser Sheni, there's no such halacha of adding on a fifth when he ate it incorrectly. Also, the Zorm, yes.
But Ma'aser, is there a thing about redeeming it?
Yes, that's true. A person could redeem Ma'aser Sheni, and that would cost a fifth, but it's not. Yes, true. It's not that fifth.
For eating it.
Right. Okay. Correct. Very nice. The third one is also the Zorim, which means that a non-Kohen is not allowed to eat it, which goes without saying because it says that he's even Chayv Misa, and he has to pay Chomesh if he does. So it goes without saying, but it's in the list also. They talk about why the Mishnah bothers mentioning it. And Ma'aser is not also for a Zar. It's mutter for a Zar to eat. Not only is it not punishable, it's permissible. The Zar is allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. In fact, the person does. He takes his own Ma'aser Sheni. He takes Yerushalayim, and it's not only to Kohanim. Truma and Bikurim are dafka for Kohanim, and Ma'aser is not for Kohanim.
The Ma'aser, maybe Zar would mean not the Baal.
No,
that's also not true, right?
Right. He can give it to other people also. Right. You can give it to somebody else. Right. Right. You invite him to come. Right. It's mutter to invite somebody to give it. The next one is next day. Kohen means that it's his personal belongings. Means that if someone was, if the truma was given to a Kohen, or Bikurim was given to a Kohen, so he owns it. It's his. It's personal money, and now we could use it to marry with the Kadashisha. It's his money. He's allowed to sell it. And Ma'aser Sheni is not so simple. It means there's machlokas about that also, but this Mishnah holds that Ma'aser Sheni is not his money, means he's allowed to eat it, but it's like he's eating on God's table. That is not that Hashem gave it to him, but you may eat it, but not that it's his. And therefore, if he would use it, let's say, to give it to a woman to say, Hariyat Mikudeshesli, it doesn't work because it's not his money. He's allowed to eat it, but it's not his property. So there's machlokas about that point. This Mishnah holds that Ma'aser Sheni, Mam and Gavoa, doesn't belong to him, it belongs to Hashem. And therefore, it's different than Truma and Bikurim that are his own property. The next one is Olin Bechor Umeya, which means when it has to become batel, if it fell in, a small amount fell into Chulin, so how much does it have to have in order to become batel? So it's a big chumrah that by Truma and Bikurim, it's not enough to have rove, it's not enough to have majority more or shishim, something like that. It has to have 100. It has to have 100 times more in order that it's become nullified. Both Truma and Bikurim, Ma'aser doesn't have that. Rashi says Ma'aser becomes batel. The robe, if it fell into a robe, it's already batel. So that's the common denominator of the chumras between Truma and Bikurim. The next one is Tun and Rechis Yadayim, that you have to wash the Tilas Yadayim before you eat Truma and Bikurim, even though it's not bread. Nowadays for Chulin, we eat we do wash only if it's bread, but not bread. You just want to take an apple, you don't have to wash. But if it will be truma, so then you do have to wash, because truma could become tamei to the level of a shlishi, and it means tam yadayim is a sheni, and you'd have to wash in order to eat the truma. And bikurim also. What Meiser is not like that Meiser doesn't become a shlishi. So stam yadayim, if you have regular stands that you don't think are tamei, you don't have to wash before you eat the Meiser. Of course, if it's bread, you have to wash even if it will be chulin also. But they were talking about when it's not bread. So that's a common denominator between truma and bikurim, that you have to wash your hands before you eat it. And the last one it says is student have. What is that?
Parents are wet. You have to wash your hands.
No.
Some parents.
No, I mean, even for chulin, we're supposed to also. Then that's something else, you're right? That if it's wet, so then the liquid becomes tamei, and then it's able to be tamei. But putting all that aside, that if chulin does not need, then meiser also does not need. It's not more common than chulin. Mashenki and truma and bikurim, they can become a shlishi. So stam hands would have to be washed before the kohen would eat the truma. Right. And the last one is tunin hair of shemesh. That means that after a person was tamei and he went to the mikvah, so he's called a full yom now. He's not yet allowed to eat truma and bikurim. He'd have to wait until nightfall, like it says in the first mission. Brachas name Messiah. Which is basically you have to wait for Rav Shemesh in order to be able to eat truma and bikurim. It's not enough to go to the mikvah. You also have to wait until the evening. Mashenke in Meiser, Taval v'ola ochel b'Meiser. That Meiser Sheni is not chomer. He's not allowed to eat it when he's tamei. But if he went to the mikvah, he's allowed to eat it the same day. That's the Mishnah. What does the Gemara want from this Mishnah? What does it have to do with us? We want to know if Arul is allowed to eat Meiser Sheni. So the Gemara is going to say that the fact that it doesn't say it, the Mishnah leaves out another one. It could have said another one. It could have said another common denominator, truma, the same way we just learned that Arul is not allowed to eat truma, and bikurim is the same. And if it would be true that Arul would be allowed to eat Meiser Sheni, then it should have said another common denominator, that truma and bikurim may not eat, Arul may not eat, and Arul may eat Meiser. The fact that it doesn't say it is a proof that it implies that Arul could also not eat it. So therefore, it's not. There's no comparison to say two against one, because all three of them it's also for Arul to eat. In short, that's what the Gemara's proof is. It means if we wanted to, we could have skipped the whole explanation and just say whatever it means, it means. Whatever these 7 things are, they are. But the fact that it doesn't say Arul, that's the whole proof. The fact that it doesn't say, there's a, how do you call it? A thundering silence. The fact that it doesn't say it, that implies that there's not a difference between them. And if you're going to say that Truma is mutter, Truma is and Bikurim is usher, and Meiser is mutter, then it should have said so. Since it doesn't say so, we can apply that we could infer that Arul is also not allowed to eat Meiser. In short, that's the Gemara's proof. Let's try to see that in the Gemara. Where did it go? No good. 1 second. Amar lahu tenisua. So Rav Shesha said, I have a proof from a Mishnah. And here goes the Mishnah. We just learned it outside. Here we see it inside. Hatruma b'bikurim has common denominators, which the Mishnah ends off about 5 lines later. Mashenkin b'maiser. So that's what we're good. That's this listing over here. So Truma b'bikurim have in common the following: Chayovin, Alein, Misa, v'chomesh. Thank you. Chayovin, Alein, Misa, v'chomesh. 1 is Misa, 2nd is Chomesh, 3rd is Asur and Lazorim, 4th is Nechse Kohen, Olim Becharumeya, Tunin Bechitz Shadayim, I'll say it again, and Harav Shemesh, Avelu B'Truma Bikurim, Mashen Ken B'Maiser. This list are common denominators between Truma and Bikurim, and Maiser Sheni does not have them. What are they? Both of them, if a non-Kohen eats them, Techayiv Misa B'Dei Shemayim. Number 2, Chomesh, if someone ate it by mistake, a non-Kohen ate it by mistake, he has to pay a 5th more. Asur and Lazorim, both of them are also to Azar, but my Maiser is mutter to a non-Kohen, mutter lachafila for a non-Kohen to eat it. Nechse Kohen means the Truma and Bikurim is the property, personal property of the Kohen, and Maiser Sheni is not. It doesn't belong to him. He's allowed to eat it, but it doesn't belong to him. Olim Becharumeya, if they fell into Chulin, so you need a lot to nullify it. It has to be 100 times more in order that it should become nullified. Tunin Rechitz Shadayim means when you want to eat Truma and Bikurim, you have to wash your hands first. Have Shemesh, that if someone was telling me went to the mikvah, he has to wait until the evening in order to eat Truma and Bikurim. But for Maiser Sheni, he doesn't have to. As soon as he goes to the mikvah, he'll be allowed to. And that's what the Mishnah says. This is a list of things that apply to Truma and Bikurim and don't apply to Maiser Sheni. And now the Rav Sheshes brings his proof. And if it's true that Arul is mutter to eat Maiser Sheni, it should have said, Arul also b'hen Mashen Ken b'Maiser. Should have said this also. Should have said that Arul is not allowed to eat Truma and Bikurim and he may eat Maiser. It must be, since it doesn't say that, the fact that I left it out implies that Arul is not allowed to eat Maiser. That was his proof. The Gemara refutes the proof by two words. Tana Bashir. Who says that it's an exhaustive list? Maybe it's not an exhaustive list. It said some things and it left out some things. So even though it would be another difference, the Mishnah didn't mention all of the differences. There's a difference here that it didn't say. It could have said it. Really, we'll take the position that oral is a mutter to eat ma'aser sheni. Why doesn't it say it? Because it left it out, and it's not an exhaustive list. It could have listed it also. But the Gemara usually doesn't like this answer because it could be that it's not an exhaustive list, but you don't just leave out one thing. That's not reasonable to leave out one thing. If you say that it's not an exhaustive list, it has to at least have left out two things. If it left out two things, we could accept that. But if it only left out one thing, then we're not going to accept that it just left out one. So now the Gemara, this is a regular standard Gemara. When it says Tana Bashir, it asks what else is missing. If you can find something else is missing, I'll accept your answer. But if not, then it's an unacceptable answer. So the Gemara asks, what else did it leave out besides that it would leave out this one also? Is there anything else missing from the list? So the Gemara says, Shia the Katani Seifa. So in the Mishnah over there, we'll go back to the Mishnah again. Let's just go again.
It says my shear, the high shear.
What did it leave out that it would leave out this?
The high shear. This.
What else did it leave out that it would leave this out?
But correct me if I'm wrong. The idea is it's not Mr. Bear that he left over one thing.
Right. Yes, yeah. So in this Mishnah over there, we just did the Mishnah where it compared Truma and Bikurim against Ma'aser, and there's nothing else that the Gemara could find that it left out. It means it's really a kasha. The Gemara won't say that's not an exhaustive list. The Gemara is trying. The Gemara didn't think of anything else that it could have said that it didn't say. But the Gemara says, I'll still show you that the Mishnah is not saying exhaustive lists because the Mishnah over there continues. And on the screen, the next case in the Mishnah also talks about different comparisons in the same three things. The Mishnah compares different groupings. Then it also compares Ma'aser and Bikurim against Truma. And in that list, I'm going to find things that are left out. That also shows that the Mishnah is not giving an exhaustive list. Even though this list, I didn't find anything else that are left out. But if I find in the other lists of the Mishnah that it was not exhaustive, so that shows that I could say this Mishnah also left out something, even though it could have said it.
Even though it's not Truman.
What? Right. But it's all those Mishnahs over there. The Mishnahs over there are giving lists of each one, 2 against 1, 2 against 1, 2 against 1. Truma and Bikurim against Ma'aser. Truma and Ma'aser against Bikurim. Ma'aser and Truma again. But if some of the lists are not exhaustive, the Gemara is happy enough to accept that the Mishnah is not giving exhaustive lists. And if so, we could say this. We can refute the proof by saying that it could have said Oral is Asa by Truma and Bikurim and Mutter by Ma'aser, but it doesn't say it because it's not an exhaustive list. So we're going on to the next list, and we're going to see what could have.
They're putting them. This is all.
It's one big Mishnah. It's one big parak over there. Mishnah parak. It's a parak over there. The Mishnahs that we have numbered is just an invention of the printers that are usually not always correct, even the division. But the point over here is to say that since in those lists over there, the Mishnah was not exhaustive, so this doesn't bother us that this list is not exhaustive, so it's not a good proof. So now we're going on to the Mishnah, end of the Mishnah, to see other information and see over there what did it leave out. The Gemara is very elaborate here, goes off the subject, it goes on a long tangent. I heard from my Rebbe, Ramel Kaplan, that the Gemara does this on the sugyas where we don't have Gemara on. It means there's Gemara only on 4 out of the 6 orders. Zrom and Taurus, there's no Gemara. And the Gemara seems to take the opportunity when it comes down, and it stumbles upon the sugya of agricultural laws or Taurus, which there's no Gemara on. So it talks. And the truth is that most of the information we have about Zrom and Taurus is from the Gemaras that brought it in like a tangent, like over here. So here the Gemara goes into the sugya, very elaborate. We're going to have a couple of pages now off the subject of oral even. So here's the Mishnah. We'll see it again on the chart on the screen before we go to the Gemara. And it says a Mishnah about Ma'aser Bikurim against Truma. And it says 1, 2, 3, 4. It says 4 similarities that Ma'aser and Bikurim have that Truma does not have. If it's bearable, it's yeah. Okay, so and then the Gemara, thank you. And then the Gemara is going to find that it was not an exhaustive list. So here it goes. The first one is Havas Makom. Havas Makom means that Truma, Ma'aser and Bikurim have to be brought to a place, to Yerushalayim. Means where to eat Ma'aser Sheni? Eat Ma'aser Sheni in Yerushalayim. And Bikurim also, the Kohen gets it. Of course, they have to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash first to give it to the Kohen. That's where you make the declaration. I brought the Bikurim, like it says, Aram Yavadavi. Yinei Yevesi, Es Reshis Priya Adama. But then also the Kohen that gets it, he has to eat it in Yerushalayim. You can't take it out of Yerushalayim. That's a common denominator between Ma'aser and Bikurim. But Truma doesn't have that because Truma, the Kohen gets and eats it all over Israel. He doesn't have to dafka in Yerushalayim. The second one is Vidu. Vidu usually we translate as a confession. Here it's not so much of a confession, it's more of a declaration. I'm not sure what the word Vidu literally means. It seems from this context that it means a declaration. And both Ma'aser and Bikurim have a declaration. What is that? Different kind of a declaration. Rashi says about Vidu Ma'aser, what the Gemara calls over there, it's not a confession. Over there it's saying I did everything right. Usually we say Vidu means I did things wrong. That's what a confession is usually called. But over here he says I did everything right. And that's what happened this past year. We didn't have it. Meiser, Vidu Meiser. Vidu Meiser, he comes and he says, some say he comes to the base of Mikdash. You mean something else. We'll get that out in a second, but let's talk about Vidu Meiser. Vidu Meiser he says, Asisi Kachal Hashem Sevisani, Bianti HaKodesh Men Abayis, V'gam Nesativ LaLevi. It's over there in Parshas Kisava also. Right. Shvi is right on the 4th and the 7th year. So, right. So then at 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then, is that then 4, 5, 6, and then 7. And then he does Vidu Meiser and he says, B'ksei Shalosh Shanim, Totzias Kol Masad Gancha, and you say, Biati HaKodesh Men Abayis, and I did everything right. Asisi Kichol Asher Sevisani, Lavati Mitzvasecha, V'lo Shachachti, made no mistakes. That's the Vidu. Interesting Vidu. Like we don't look at that like a Vidu. We look at it like I did everything right. But that's what, okay, fine. That's called a Vidu Meiser, declaration. But Bikurim also has a declaration, a different declaration. Over there he comes to the base of Mikdash and he says, Arami Ovadavi. And what we say the night of Pesach is taken from the pasuk in Kisava, where it talks about what a person says in the base of Mikdash when he comes to make a declaration about the Bikurim. So both of them have a declaration. Truma has no declaration. So that's a common denominator between Meiser and Bikurim against Truma. The third one. What is that? So I said that the word Vidu means a declaration. I made it up because this is not a confession. I can't say the word confession over here. So I made it up, but I didn't look into it. I'd like to find what the word Vidu literally means. We always translate it as a confession because we use it in the context of a confession. By Vidu, by Yom Kippur, we say Vidu. So we usually use it in that context. But the word here doesn't seem to mean a confession. So if it's a kasha, it's a kasha. But it seems to hear a declaration. There's something you're supposed to say by Ma'aser Sheni. There's something you're supposed to say by Bikurim, but there's nothing to say by Truma. So that's what the Mishnah puts, a common denominator between 2 against 1. The third one, Asala One, that by Ma'aser Sheni and One, was an One, the person's relative died on that day. The day that a person died, we don't talk, there's One, the word One in rabbinic terms means till the burial, and he's not allowed to do mitzvahs. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the One of Kachim, which means that the day that the relative died, the relative is not allowed to, the mourner, the day that the relative died, is not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. And that's what pasuk says, by Ma'aser Sheni it says, that's the only place where it says it, and we learn out other places also. Here it says that Bikurim also, an Onen is not allowed to eat, and that's a common denominator between Ma'aser and Bikurim, that an Onen is not allowed to eat them, and Truma, he is permitted. There's no issue for an Onen to eat Truma. Of course, he has to be Tohar. It can't be that he had contact with the dead, because then he's tummy. But if he didn't, he has a relative who died, he's not to eat Truma. The Mishnah says, Rav Shimon argues on this point and says that Bikurim also is mutter for an Onen to eat. Rav Shimon argues on the Talmud Kama and says that it's mutter. He agrees that a Meiser, an Onen is not allowed to eat Meiser, it's open tosik. But he argues about Bikurim and he says that on the contrary, in this way, it will be a similarity to Truma. Truma and Bikurim, both of them are Onen is allowed to eat. So Rav Shimon argues on this point. And the fourth case that the Mishnah says, the fourth aspect is Chayavin Bebir. That means, we spoke about the Vidu Meiser, also the Beer Meisers. Beer Meisers means after 3 years, again on the 4th and the 7th year. So if anything was not given yet, means that if he didn't give the Meiser that he was supposed to give, Meiser Sheni he was supposed to have given to taken to Yerushalayim, separated, taken to Yerushalayim. If he didn't, so then he has to do Beer, means he has to destroy it. He has to destroy it. If he doesn't give it by the end of the 3rd year, he has to destroy it. And also by Bikurim, he has to destroy it. If he didn't give it, he has this 3 years to give it. If he didn't give it, so then he has to destroy it. And Truma is not so. Truma, he's also supposed to take out and see if he didn't give Truma in the past 3 years, and he's supposed to give it, but then he gives it to the Kohen. He doesn't have to destroy it. So there's a common denominator between Ma'aser and Bikurim that after the third, after the end of 3 years, and the 3 year cycle, he has to take out the 3 years of the Shemitah cycle. After 3 years, then again after the second 3 years, he takes out any Ma'aser and Bikurim that he did not give, and if he doesn't give it, then he has to destroy it. And Truma, there's no such thing to destroy it, he has to give it to the Kohen. So that's a common denominator.
Even if it's more than 3 years.
If it was 3 years, I think maybe he has till the end of the 3 years, maybe he could give it right then, but if he doesn't give it by the end of the 3 years, then he has to destroy it. And don't take it to Yerushalayim anymore. Truma not, Truma give it to the
I'm asking
Kohen.
about the truma.
Give it to the Kohen.
You can give it even if it's after the.
Right, give it to the Kohen, right. And Reb Shimon argues on this also. Reb Shimon says Bikurim is not like the Meiser. It doesn't have to be destroyed. Also, it can be given to the Kohen. So that's the end of the Mishnah, and it says 4 common denominators. Reb Shimon argues on 2 of them, but it says 4 common denominators between Meiser and Bikurim against Truma. What are we looking for? We're just looking if it's an exhaustive list. Why are we interested? Because if this is not an exhaustive list, then we can say that this also was not an exhaustive list, and we'll say that Orel, that's all we're really interested in. If this Orel is usher to eat Meiser. So the whole raya is like we're talking about one little aspect over here, and we're going deep into the whole Mishnah, all these details to get to the bottom of it. So one is Truma and Bikurim against Meiser, and one is Meiser and Bikurim against Truma. If you look in the Mishnah, you'll see over there also Meiser and Truma against Bikurim. You see a third list. Has all kinds of lists. So we're saying that since one list is not exhaustive, so too the first list also may not be exhaustive. So it's not a proof that an oral is usher to eat Meiser. It could be that an oral is mutter to eat Meiser, and it left it out, even though it could have said it also. So what's the Gemara going to talk about? There are 2 more things that let's look at on the screens first, and we'll see it inside. There are 2 more things that the Gemara feels that it might have said. It could have said two more common denominators between Meiser and Bikurim, and it does not say it. What are they? One is Asur Levaer B'Tumah. It says Lo Biartim Yemenu B'Tomei. By Meiser, it says that you're not allowed to, if it became Tomei, you destroy it, but you're not allowed to benefit from it while you're burning it. If the Meiser Sheni became Tomei, or the Bikurim became Tomei, you'd have to burn it, you have to destroy it. But you're not allowed to benefit from the fire. While you're burning it, you can't benefit from it. But by Truma, that's not true. If you have Truma Tameya, if it's Truma Torah, eat it. If it's Truma Tameya, so you're allowed to benefit, you burn it, and the Kohen would be allowed to benefit from its use, which we have nowadays also, that Kohanim, if they're given out by the Mashgichim, the Mashgiach who gives kasher certification, and they take Trumas and Meisers from different produce, and then they have olive oil, and the olive oil is Tameh, it's Truma Tameya. So what can you do with Truma Tameya? So a Kohen is allowed to use it to use for a fire, and that's what they do. They Yaakov Fleiman told us that the Kohanim get, if they want, they can get a bottle of oil that's Truma Tameya, and they use it to burn the Shabbos candles. The fuel of the Shabbos candles is used with Truma Tameya. So Kohen would be allowed to take Truma Tameya and use it for fuel, for light, for cooking. So that's a lot. Truma Tameya. The Truma is tummy.
You can eat it.
Truma Tameya may not be eaten. We're not talking about the Kohen is
That's what
tummy.
you just said. You could use it in cooking.
Cooking, no, cooking for fuel.
For fuel. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's why he said.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The Gemara says that. The Gemara says la sim tachas tafshila, to put under his under to put in the fuel. Yeah, we don't think about that because we have gas. We don't think about using it. But in those days, you have to have fuel in order to make a fire. So what do you put in the fire? So you have truma. You have a loaf of bread that truma tamei that became tamei. So you put it into the fire, and it's going to be fuel to burn. And then on top of that, you'll put your soup. So so I'm sorry for that mistake, for that misunderstanding. So by truma, you're allowed to use the truma tameya to burn and benefit from the burning of the truma tameya. But by ma'aser sheni and bikurim, you're not allowed to benefit from it. It doesn't, and the Mishnah doesn't say that. It could have said it. It doesn't say it. Is again, the Mishnah is silent from saying another comparison that it could have said. Of course, Rav Shimon would have argued on that because he compares the whole time that we'll see soon that he holds that bikurim is not like ma'aser sheni in each way. It's more like truma. He would have argued, but that's not relative to us. The Tanna Kama, at least, could have said that there's a common denominator between Ma'aser and Bikurim against Truma. It doesn't say it.
Why doesn't it say Asur B'Hana? Why does it just say Asur L'Va'ir? I thought it meant that you can't burn it.
No, you're allowed to burn it. You burn it, but you don't benefit from it. You do burn it, but you don't benefit from it. You're supposed to burn it.
It looks like it says it's Asur to burn.
Asur L'Va'ir B'Tumah. You're saying that you are allowed to burn it, but Tumah doesn't benefit from it.
Yeah.
That's what it means. Okay. And one more thing that I could have said and it doesn't is, what if somebody eats it when the truma is tamei, the person is tahor, the person is tahor, but the truma is tam, the item is tamei, ma'aser bikurim, truma, is he chayiv malchus for eating it? He's not tamei. If he's tamei, then he's chayiv malchus. He was a tamei person, he ate it, he's tamei. What if he's tahor? He's tahor, but the truma, the ma'aser, the bikurim is tamei, is he chayv malchus. So here it's saying also there's a theoretical case that the Mishnah could have said that there's a common denominator between Ma'aseh and Bikurim against Truma, and that is if he is chayv malchus or not. Is he chayv malchus or not? That by Ma'aseh and Bikurim he would be chayv malchus. If somebody a Kohen ate Ma'aseh or Bikurim and the Ma'aseh and Bikurim was tamei, even though he's tahor, he would be chayv malchus. But Shenkin Truma, he's not chayv malchus. He wouldn't be chayv malchus. The Gemara is going to say it's only going to be a positive commandment. It's not going to be a negative commandment. So that's also another thing that the Mishnah might have said, a common denominator between Ma'aseh and Bikurim against Truma. Just to zoom out a second, what does the Gemara want from all this? If I could show that by this list, it's not an exhaustive list because it has two more points that it could have said and it doesn't say. So the lists over there are not exhaustive. If it's not exhaustive, then the list before is also not exhaustive. And it could very well be that an oral is mutter to eat Ma'aseh Sheni, but it doesn't say it because it's not an exhaustive list.
And does it help that it had two examples, or even if it had one, we might still have been able to push
Then it would have even been stronger that why did it leave out one thing over there? That would have been a proof that it left out. That would have been like it would have turned the tables around. It would have been that this must have been right. Now we have no proofs because it has an exhaustive, not exhaustive. There's two things that are left over, and we don't right. So it's not a proof, but it's not listed. So that's all the Gemara is doing. The Gemara is trying to find that in the Sefer of the Mishnah, but it has a list. It's not exhaustive, and if so it could very well be that this list is also not exhaustive. If it is hard for anybody, so please do put on the. It might be that take a vote if everybody wants to. As long as everybody's comfortable, okay. Okay. That's more or less a preview of what the Gemara is going to say. So if we go to the Gemara, is that showing on the screen? Anybody on Zoom? Is the Gemara showing now?
The Gemara is not showing.
Not showing. So let me get that on again. Thank you. Okay. So the Gemara answered the Tana Bashir that it's not a proof from the fact that it leaves out oral with Ma'aseh because it's not an exhaustive list. My Shir, the high Shir. What else does it leave out that I shall leave out one thing? Shir, the Katani Sefer, and now goes the Mishnah we just learned. Yesh Ma'aseh v'Bikurim Mashen came Truma. There's a common denominators between Ma'aseh and Bikurim that Truma does not have, and the list is Shema'aseh v'Bikurim, number 1, Tunin Avos Mokom, number 2, Tunin Vidui, number 3, Asa La'onein, Rav Shimon Mati, that one, by Bikurim, and number 4, Chayav Bebir, and again, Rav Shimon Poter. What are the 4 things? That both of them have to be brought to Yerushalayim. Ma'aseh and Bikurim, Ma'aseh Sheni and Bikurim, and Truma not. Tunin Vidui, there's some declaration to make, by Ma'aseh Avidu Ma'aseh, by Bikurim you have Mikra Bikurim, and Asa La'onein, according to Tanakama, both Ma'aseh Sheni and Bikurim are Asa to an Onein, and Truma is not. Rav Shimon Mati, Rav Shimon holds that Bikurim is also Mutter to an Onein, so he doesn't have that as a common denominator between Ma'aseh and Bikurim. On the contrary, it's going to be between Bikurim and Truma that are both Mutter Onein. And the 4th one is Chayav and Bebir, that both Ma'aseh and Bikurim, if you didn't give it within the 3 years, so then you have to destroy it, and Truma not. Rav Shimon Poter, Rav Shimon says that Bikurim also is not destroyed if you didn't give it in the 3 years. Also, you can still give it to the Kohen like Truma. Anyway, that's the end of the Mishnah. And what does the Gemara want? That it doesn't have an exhaustive list because 2 things it could have said. The ilu. This is already that's the end of the Mishnah. Now the Gemara talks. The ilu. The next one. Also the var mehen betuma. Number 1. It could have said. And number 2. On Amud Beis. Ochlan betuma satzman loka. It could have said these 2 things. The first one would be that is a mutter to be benefit from it. Let's see if Rashi says what I said. Like Jacob was saying that it doesn't say it openly. Rashi does asal hadik man in nitnu daim tamastim labara. Yeah, Rashi does say, seems to say that's all burning it for use. The hard as of shot.
Burning it for
use,
for benefit.
Right, for benefit. So it doesn't say that. It could have said a common denominator. Both Ma'aseh and Bikurim is also to burn it when it's tamei for benefit. You can't benefit from it. And Truma, you may benefit when you're burning it.
You have to destroy it?
What?
You do have to
I
destroy it?
think so. I think so. If someone would eat the Ma'aseh and Bikurim when the Ma'aseh and Bikurim is tamei, he'd be chayv malchus. Mashen kain betruma, that first of all he would not allow to benefit from burning it when it's tamei, and second of all, if he would eat it when it is tamei, he would not be chayv malchus. Why did Lokatani? It doesn't say those 2 things. Why not? Al-Matana Bashir. We see that the Mishnah was not an exhaustive list. So if it's not an exhaustive list, it could be that it left out something else also. in very short, what we said, if you leave out all the details, what did the Gemara say? I want to bring a proof that an Orel, an uncircumcised person, is not allowed to eat Meiser Sheni, because if he would be, then the Mishnah could have made that as another difference between Meiser and Bikurim, Truma and Meiser, Truma and Bikurim, Truma and Bikurim against Meiser, that both of them, Truma and Bikurim, are Asa for all to eat, and Meiser's mutter. The fact that it doesn't say it, it implies that it's also Asa. That was the Gemara's proof. And the refutation is no, they've left out. There are things that are left out. So it's not an exhaustive list, even though it might have been in the list. It deserves to be in the list, but it left out. It wasn't an exhaustive list. That's all the Gemara, as far as we're concerned about we have a lot of other information that came in over here. Very good information, all Torah. But as far as our discussion, that's all we need. The Gemara tried to bring a proof that Orel is Aser b'Meiser, the fact that the Mishnah didn't say so. And the Gemara says maybe it's not an exhaustive list, so it's not a proof. The Gemara continues at the bottom of the page, which is going to be, we'll hope to get there today, all the way on the bottom. But now the Gemara has a big tangent. The whole page is in parentheses, so to speak, that it's the side points. So all that is going to be side points. We're going to do it now, but just to hold in mind that we're going on a cruise now. We're going to go into that Mishnah over there and discuss things we spoke about and find sources for what we spoke about. It's going to open up some windows on the Mishnah we learned, even though all of it is not relevant to us. We don't need it for our discussion.
How far down I see.
It goes till the bottom.
To the last line.
We can even skip a second out. If one looked all the way to the bottom, just to continue the flow, the bottom line, the bottom one, all the way on the bottom of the page. Amr Ravashi. This is the bottom of 73b, all the way on the bottom, one line up. We'll come back to the whole Gemara still, but just to finish off the sugya. Amr Ravashi. The Tana B'Shia. So far, we said that there are two Mishnayos, and one case, our case, we said is not a proof that it's not an exhaustive list, because only one thing we found that might have been missing. And the other Mishnah, we found that there are two things missing. And since one list is not exhaustive, it could be the first list is also not exhaustive. That's what we did till now. But Rav Ashi makes it a little better. The first list also, there are things that it could have said and it didn't say. So I can prove from the ratio alone that it's not an exhaustive list. Just to see that.
I said it was only one.
Again, that's what we're saying now. Let me just put the list on a second.
The seven and the one that wasn't.
Right. So now we're going to say there are two more. Could have been really 9, 10. Could have been. He's going to say I found other things in that list. In this first list, we had 7 things, and we said one thing could have been. So we said maybe left out, and we weren't able to find anything else that was left out to make it an unexhaustive list. And we went to the next part of the Mishnah to say over there it's not exhaustive, so here also it's not exhaustive. Now Rashi is going to say in this list also there are 2 more things that I could have said also. I didn't write it on the chart, but I should have. That there are 2 more things that I could have been in the list, and even leave out to say, but this list is not exhaustive. And what is that going to be now? And that's the Gemara. Oh, I meant to put on the Gemara now. 1 second. Here it is. There are 2 more things I could have said. A common denominator between Truma and Bikurim, that they apply even the rest of the years, every year of the years of the Shemitah cycle. Means Truma is every year and Bikurim is every year. Meiser Sheni is only the first, second, fourth, and fifth.
Excuse me, Shavua here is year.
Shavua is a 7-year cycle. Shavua is a 7. The word Shavua means a 7. Like even a week is called a Shavua because it's a 7-day cycle. And in the year, a 7-year cycle is also called a Shavua. Like Shemitah is called Shvius, right? So this is called Shavua, 7-year cycle. So Meiser Sheni only applies some years, only the first, second, fourth, and fifth. But the third and sixth, it doesn't apply. And also Shemitah, it doesn't apply. But Truma and Truma and Bikurim, both of them are every year.
Very good. So
that's a common. I could have said it. So it says 7 things. I could have said this also. So it's not an exhaustive list. And also Ein Lam Pidyon, that you can't be podeh Truma and Bikurim. Meiser Sheni you could be podeh, like it says in the pasuk. If you have Meiser Sheni wherever you live and you want to bring it to Yerushalayim, but it's too heavy, so you transfer it onto money. You transfer the kedusha onto money. And then you can bring the money and you buy things in Yerushalayim, that becomes Meiser Sheni. But there's no such thing as by Truma. By Truma, you can't transfer the Kedusha, and by Bikurim, you can't transfer the Kedusha. So there you have it. There are 2 more things that the Mishnah could have said. So instead of going to the end of the Mishnah and say that's not exhaustive. So the first Mishnah maybe is not exhaustive. The first Mishnah alone is not exhaustive.
That's 3 now.
That's 3, and maybe it has 3. Maybe it has 2. Maybe it has 3. Means if you say that, because we don't know if all can eat Meiser or not. What
Oh,
we're saying.
now we can say for sure that they were left out and they may, I see.
And it may have been left out. So we don't know. Oh, is our allowed to eat Meiser? We want to bring a proof that he may not eat Meiser, because if he may, then he should have been in the list over there. So we said maybe it's not exhaustive. Now we know for sure it's not exhaustive. We still don't know the answer to the question. It might have left it out. It might have left it out. It might be not true to leave it. It might have been that it's us, and oral still might be
These for sure, we know that they don't apply.
Right.
To,
to Meiser. And
Meiser.
right. And
but then the other one that was left out, why don't we know that for sure that, oh,
I don't know what it is. Is oral allowed to eat Meiser or not? Maybe he's not allowed to eat Meiser, so can't say it's different because no difference. All of them are not allowed to eat any of them. Not true, not Bikurim, not Meiser. That's why it doesn't say it, because it's not true. Or it could be that it is true and it could have said it, but it doesn't say it because it's not an exhaustive list. So at this point, if we ask, is the oral allowed to eat Meiser? The answer is we don't know. We tried to. That's the whole day today. That's the end of the day. Don't go away. There's a lot to go back. But as far as our discussion, that's the end of the sugya. Is oral allowed to eat Meiser? The Gemara thought it had a proof. Rav Sheshes thought he had a proof in this Mishnah in Bikurim that it says the differences between Truma and Bikurim against Meiser, and it doesn't say oral is a proof that oral is not allowed to eat Meiser. And the Gemara refuted it by saying it could be it's not an exhaustive list, either because the next Mishnah is not exhaustive, or this Mishnah also is not exhaustive, and that's the end of the story. The story is going to continue tomorrow, all about more proof. We're going to try to find more proofs if it's always allowed to eat Meiser. But as far as today, we weren't successful in getting a proof. So we still don't know if I was allowed to eat Meiser. But now we go back to the whole page that we skipped.
we're
That's-
just gonna analyze things from the Mishnah.
Now we're going to go back to the Mishnah and analyze things. That's going to be the whole Amud now we're going to do. So the Gemara starts on Ayin Gimel Amud Beis, third line. Before we said there's machlokes if Onain is allowed to eat Bikurim or not. That was part of the Mishnah. It mentioned it, it's not our subject at all, but it mentioned it. Is Onain allowed to eat Bikurim? Means some things are going to be for sure that Onain is not allowed to eat Meiser, that says openly, and everyone's going to agree that Onain is allowed to eat Truma. And the question is going to be if Onain is allowed to eat Meiser and Saka Machlokes from Shimon and Rabbanan. And we want to analyze where do they get what is the source of all that. So here it goes. It says Asun Onain of Shimon Mate. What's the source of all that? Where did they get it from? Then it goes further. That's the end of the pasuk. All this is the pasuk with some left out in between. The pasuk, the Gemara skipped quoting the whole pasuk, but it ends off with Chumas Yadecha. It says you may not eat in your cities, which means you can't eat out of Yerushalayim, Meiser, which is going to be Meiser Sheni, and then it goes on and on. That says other things also, and then it ends off Chumas Yadecha. What does Chumas Yadecha mean? It doesn't mean Chuma. Chuma you are allowed to eat out of Yerushalayim, but it says you may not eat in your cities out of Yerushalayim, Meiser. And it says also Chumas Yadecha. What's that? Chumas Yadecha, it'll be Bikurim. That this is referring to Bikurim. Taisa says because it says the word Yad that you're supposed to put it you bring it in your hand. So the word Chumas Yadecha is not referring to Chuma, it's referring to Bikurim. Okay, so what do you see now?
Who says that, Rashi?
The Gemara says. Oh, what I said just now, that's Taisa. Taisa says that the word Yadecha over here. Here's the Taisvus here, the second Taisvus. Since it says Yadecha, so when it says Chumas Yadecha, even though the word Chuma sounds more like Chuma, it doesn't mean Chuma. Chumas Yadecha means Bikurim. So what does it say? You see, in this pasuk that it talked about Meiser Sheni, and it spoke about Bikurim. That's what Rabbanan say. Ma Meiser Asalonen, not Bikurim Asalonen. This pasuk is going to be the source that Bikurim is similar to Meiser Sheni. Since the pasuk put it in one category, that it says don't eat out of you, don't eat in your cities, Meiser Sheni and Bikurim. So the pasuk puts it together. So they go together. That's going to be the guideline to know what Bikurim is, whatever Meiser Sheni is. That's the Pshat and the Rabbanan. That's why they say that that Bikurim is usher to a no name. Same way that Meiser Sheni is usher to a no name. So too, Bikurim is usher to a no name. What does Rav Shimon do? Rav Shimon, Chuma Kaminu Rachmana. The fact that it calls it Chumas Yadecha, that's not a coincidence. That's not coincidental that it calls it Truma. Why is it calling it Truma? It's not Truma. They say that has a din of Truma, that it's not Truma with Teres Laone, not Bikurim with the Laone. And in general, Rav Shimon is going to say that Bikurim is like Truma, and the Rabbanan are going to say Meiser Sheni is like Bikurim. Based on this pasuk, on one hand, the pasuk compares it. The same in the pasuk it says Meiser Sheni and Bikurim. That's one reason to think that it's comparable to Meiser Sheni. On the other hand, the name that the Torah calls it Chumas Yadecha, that implies that maybe it has a din of Truma. That's machlokes. Is Bikurim going to be more like Meiser? Unless each thing is going to be there are exceptions. But what's the default? What do you if you don't know, what do you compare Bikurim to? Do you compare it to Meiser Sheni, or do you compare it to truma, that's the machlokes. The pasuk says together Ma'aser Sheni and Bikurim in the same pasuk. On the other hand, the name that we gave to Bikurim, Hashem gave the name Truma Sedecha. That sounds like it's truma. Also, the next we have machlokes. One says it like this, one says it like that. We're not taking sides. We're not saying where each one gets it from. He gets it from the fact that it's situated next to Ma'aser Sheni, and he says because the name implies that it's like truma. The next machlokes also we also had in the Mishnah. Chayav and Bebi of Rab Shimon quote that also was in the Mishnah. That's the quote from the Mishnah before. And also same machlokes Mar Makish and Mar Lo Makish. That is it considered like Ma'aser Sheni? Rab Shimon the Tanakhama says, and the other Rab Shimon is going to say no, it's like truma. Now we're continuing. We're not talking about the Mishnah. We're not quoting a Mishnah, but we're quoting what the Gemara said that the Mishnah left out. On the bottom line of the first page and the top line of the second page, it said that the Mishnah left out two things that it could have said. Those were the Tan of Ashir that left out two things. The bottom of the first side of the page was Asa Levar Men Betuma. That both of them you're not allowed. And Rashi says this is going according to Tanakhama. According to Tanakhama, that says that Ma'aser Sheni is like. I'm sorry, the Kum is like Ma'aser Sheni. It could have been more common denominators that Ma'aser Sheni is usher to benefit from it when you burn it. And the second thing is that there's a Chi of Malchus if someone would eat it when it is Tameh, and Truma is different. And Bikurim is going to be the same machlokus again. Bikurim is going to be the machlokus between Rab Shimon and Rabbanan. What is it like? But the Gemara wants to open up this issue about that Truma. The first thing is that Truma you're allowed to eat. You're allowed to benefit when you're burning it Tuma. And Ma'aser Sheni you're not allowed to. And these 2 points now the Gemara is going to talk about, or at least one of them. The second one was you don't need a pasuk that you're not allowed to, that Ma'aser Sheni is not allowed to benefit from it when it's tamei, because it says openly in pasuk. You don't need a pasuk for that. You don't need I think you're not going to need anything for that. I think. And the second point is going to be that it's aser to eat it when the truma is, when the Ma'aser Sheni is tamei, and he's chayiv malchus if he does. So, Minovan, how do you know these facts? The Tanya, Rab Shimon Omer, Lo bi'atim mena b'tamei, ben shani tamei v'hu tor, ben shani tor v'hu tamei. The pasuk that says, I didn't destroy it when in Tumah, it doesn't say when I was tamei, it doesn't say when it is tamei. It says b'tamei, in Tumah, in the Tumah state. So that implies both cases, both scenarios. Either that I'm tamei and it was tor, or I'm tor and it is tamei. That it's usher to eat Ma'aser Sheni, no difference if the person is tamei or the Ma'aser Sheni is tamei, even if the person is tor. And the Echel Muzir al Achila, so any of there, but I still don't know. It says in the confession, he says, not the confession, the declaration, he says, I didn't do it. So you see, you're not supposed to. But the pasuk always has to say a negative commandment, do not do it. So how do you know, where do you know that you're not allowed to? Echel Muzir al Achila, so any of there. But I don't know where it says that you're not allowed to. Where does it say that you're not allowed to eat it? So the Gemara,
the warning.
right? Where's the warning that says that you're not supposed to? I don't know any of that. I don't know. I don't yet know where it says that you're not allowed to eat it. So there's the 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 lines of Gemara interjection before the Brisa continues. If you read the Brisa straight, it would have gone, I don't know. And the answer is, that's coming up soon. But before the Gemara goes further,
Part of the, I thought that was the Gemara.
on the screen, you have the Gemara. It shows the parentheses. That's the Gemara inserting in the Brisa. The Brisa says, that's the Mishnah Brisa talking.
Oh.
And the Brisa continues on the 5 lines later. But the Gemara interjects in the middle of the talking the Brisa. Rashi explains all this. That the Gemara says, "What do you mean? I don't know. You don't know where it says you're not allowed to eat in Tumah. Tumah saguf hedik sebe. If the person is tummy, it's open pasuk. It says nefesh hasheti gabo b'tamah adorev v'lo yichal min hakodashim ki machatz b'sarov b'mayim. It says openly that if a person touches it and it becomes tamei. Nefesh hasheti gabo. Over there, it's talking about touching tumah. If a person touches tumah, he becomes tamei, and he should not eat the kachim until he goes to the mikvah. So it says openly that he's not allowed to eat it if he's tamei. So what do you mean you don't know where it says it? It says any of that. I don't know where it says, and it started off saying 2 things. I'm tamei, it's tamei. So this part surely you do know. You know where it says that you're not allowed to eat it if you're tamei. But the Brisa means to ask, where does it say that you're not allowed to eat it if the Ma'aser Sheni is tamei? The pasuk only says if the person is tamei. What if the person is tor and the Ma'aser Sheni is tamei? How do you know you're not allowed to eat it? Now the Brisa continues. Talmud Lomar. This is ready to write back to the Brisa. The Gemara is interjected. What are we talking about? We're talking about that the Ma'aser Sheni is tamei. How do you know you're not allowed to eat it? Tamid lomar, v'asuch halacha b'sharecha, masad gramcha, ulalinu omer, b'sharecha. You have to have, that's not enough for a brush, you have to have 2 tubes of him. It says, don't eat it in your city, in your gates, in your cities. The Pashpat is not allowed to eat it out of Yerushalayim. That's the Pashpat, and we're not saying the Pashpat is not true. Just we're going to put a drash into it besides that. The Pasuk says you may not eat Ma'aser Sheni in your gates. But there's another thing, the word gates, your cities, the gates, has a different connotation also. We're talking about a different subject altogether. It's talking about Pseudo Mikdashin, Kachim that became Tameh and you redeemed it. Over there it says you're allowed to eat it even when it's Tameh. Once you had Kachim, Korbanos, but it became Puzzle and you redeemed it. So now it's redeemed Kachim. Over there it says you can eat it as regular food. You can eat it all over. Person that's Tameh and Torah, you can eat it, no problem. Like regular meat, if you have any kind of meat like a deer or another kind of a deer, eat it, fine. That's the pasuk. But it uses the word b'sharecha tochlenu. When it wants to say eat it, no problem. It says over there b'sharecha tochlenu. We're going to say that word b'sharecha is coming to teach us what the word b'sharecha over here means. When it says l'such alechol b'sharecha means don't eat it b'tumah. Over there, over there when it says b'sharecha tochlenu atamei v'atar yachdav, it means tamei v'tar yachdav. It means 2 people could eat it. One person is tamei, one person is tar. They're eating on the same plate. That means that it's becoming tamei. It's becoming tamei, and he may eat it. He can eat it even though it's tamei. And over here it says, our pasuk says, don't eat here the same way you eat over there. Over there you're allowed to eat it even though it's tamei. Here, don't eat it like that. That which I said over there, like Psula Mikdashin, it was been redeemed. Over there you're allowed to eat it even though it's tamei. Over here, don't eat it like that. So this is going to be a negative commandment where it says you may not eat Ma'aser Sheni if it's tamei even though you're Torah. Everybody happy with that? Just to sum it up, that point was that the one is looking for a pasuk that it's a negative commandment that someone's chayv malchus if he eats Ma'aser Sheni when it's tamei, even though he's Torah. He's in Yerushalayim and he has Ma'aser Sheni, it became tamei, and he eats it. He's chayv malchus even though he's Torah. Of course, if he's tamei, it's a fresh pasuk. If he's tamei, he's not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. But even if he's and also malchus. But here the chiddush is that even if he's Torah, it's tamei, also is chayv malchus. First of all, not.
Huh?
Why should he become tummy? That's because he touched tummy food. You don't become tummy from eating tummy food. But it's not. But no, a person doesn't become tummy from food. Food is much less tummy than a person. A person has to have other tummy to become tummy from. He doesn't become. The food is not enough to make a person tummy.
The person makes the food to it.
Yeah, but the food doesn't make the person tummy. And the food is tummy is also to eat Ma'aser Sheni tummy even if the person is Torah is also chayv malchus. And we're going to see Mashenkim v'Truma. Here it's going to say Mashenkim v'Truma. Both of these things don't apply to Truma. What are those 2 things? Let's just scroll back a little bit. We're talking about 2 subjects. One is that Asa Levar Mehen v'Truma, and the second one is Ochlan v'Truma Sas Maloke. That Ma'aser Sheni, and which you don't need the pasuk for to say that you're not allowed to destroy when it's tummy. That's the Perish pasuk. But Ochlan v'Truma Sas Maloke. That was what we just did the Gemara now to prove that if somebody eats Ma'aser Sheni when it's tummy, he's also chayv malchus. And Mashenkim with Truma, both of these things don't apply. That by Truma, you're allowed to benefit from it when you're burning it, if it's Truma Tameya. And if you eat it when it's Tamei, there's no Chiyuv Malchus. Truma, if you eat Truma when it is Tamei, and you're not Tamei, so then there's no Malchus. And the Gemara is going to go to prove that part now. Mashenkim with Truma, both of these things don't apply to Truma. Menolan, how do we know? This the pasuk is talking about Ma'aser Sheni. This is the famous pasuk that we quoted many times. That by Ma'aser Sheni he declares, I did everything right. I didn't destroy it in a state of tumah. Mimenu, yeah, but it says the word mimenu. It. I didn't burn it tummy. What does that mean? I didn't benefit from it when I was tummy. And what does it mean? It. Mimenu shemen shel truma. This word mimenu is coming to include something else. Over here it's also to benefit from it when you're burning it, if it's tamei. But there's something else. The word mimenu is saying it, this, after this. That implies something else is going to be mutter. Which thing is going to be mutter? We're going to have to figure it out. The Gemara is going to say that truma, when you're burning truma, you would be a lot of benefit from it. That when you're burning oil of truma that became tamei, you are a lot of benefit from it. The Gemara says, who says to learn out truma? Maybe learn out that Kodesh, you're allowed to benefit from Kodesh when you're burning Kachim. If you have Kachim that became Tameh, a carbon that became Tameh, you're burning it, maybe a lot of benefit from it as fuel when you're burning it. Maybe say that you're allowed to benefit from kachim that you're burning when it's tamei. The Moshe says, how can that be? Kachim, which is more chomer? Ma'aser Sheni or Karbanas? For sure, Karbanas. So if it's supposed to say that you're not allowed to benefit from Ma'aser Sheni when it's tamei to burn it, so Kal V'chomer Kachim not. So that doesn't make any sense. But the Gemara says, yeah, very nice, but it doesn't make sense anything about Truma either. Truma is also more than Ma'aser Sheni. Truma nami Kal V'chomer. Truma is also more than Ma'aser Sheni. So if you can't burn Ma'aser Sheni benefit from it, how could you say that Truma you made? It also doesn't make sense for the same reason. Kachim and Truma, both of them are more than Ma'aser Sheni. But the Gemara is not. There's a pasuk. The more answers. This pasuk that's coming to say Dafka Ma'aser Sheni, something else is mutter. So now Mara is. That's always that we have this logic a couple of times in the past pages that something is mutter, something is also. We don't know which one it is. So now we're left to our own reason to be able to figure out which one is more mistaber. The pasuk says something mutter, something else. So go figure it out. So now what do we figure out? We have on the scale we have two things: either kachim, karbanis, or truma. Means Ma'aser Sheni, it says openly that you're not allowed to benefit from it when you're burning it if it's tamei. But something, one of these two things, even though they're more chomer, one of these things is mutter. Just we don't know which one. Is it kachim or is it truma? So we're gonna have to make a contest or a competition to see which one is more chomer. The one that's more chomer is going to be asar. The one that's more lenient is going to be the one that's mutter. So which one is more chomer, kachim or truma? What do you say?
Yes.
What do you guess? Yeah, karbanas.
Not always.
Very nice. That's what the Gemara is going to put that on the scale. That maybe you see that Truma has a chumrah over kachim because Truma is also to Israelim and kachim sometimes kachim is mutter. There's going to be a list. The Gemara is going to make a listing and trying to find which is more chumrah, kachim or Truma. So here goes the Gemara. Mara is which. How do you know which one is more? Why do you see to this one is yes, this one not? Mistabra kodesh lo ma'itna shekain. So if you want, you can have the simon over like pancakes. Here it is, pancakes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not a pancake. It's a mnemonic. Just to remember, Rashi Tevis of 6 different chumras that Kachim has over Truma. Pei nun kuf ayin kaf samach. Some people pronounce it pancakes, but if you speak English and it's pancakes, so then you have a pancake. So here's a way to remember. What's the chumra of Kachim over Truma?
What's the Roman? No?
I'm not going to exclude it. I'm not going to be mamayed. It means I have a choice of one or two things. Ma'aser Sheni is also to do b'tumah, is to burn b'tumah and the benefit from it. And one of the two is going to say that it's mutter. There's going to be one of them are going to be mamayed. You say mimenu is also something else is mutter. I'm not going to say kodesh is not. I'm not going to exclude it. It means I'm going to say kodesh is also wasser because it's more chomer than truma. Why? Because it has 6 chumras over Truma. Kachim is more chomer than Truma in 6 ways. Pei nun kuf ayin kaf samach. And what is that? The Gemara spells it out for you. Pei is pigul, nosar, korban. That you look at the Rashi Tevis, look at the first letter of each word. Pei nun kuf. Now the next one, ayin, is not mamish the first letter. It's meila. You're supposed to know that it doesn't stand for the mem. It stands for the ayin. Why didn't the Gemara make the simon to be pank mekis or something like that? Pan max, I don't know. This is and kores is the kaf, and asalone it doesn't also. They didn't put an aleph over there. You made a samach. It's supposed to stand for asalone. You're supposed to figure it out. You want to make your own simon, you can make your own simon also. But this was the Gemara simon. It could mean that the word pancakes meant something to the Gemara also, whatever. So anyway, these are 6 things that kachim has more than truma. What are they? Pigul, nosa. These things don't apply to truma at all. There's no pigul and nosa by truma. Korban. It's not a korban. It's not called a korban. It doesn't have the severity that being a korban. Meila, there's no mila and truma.
Meila is the wrong intention.
No, mila means if you benefit from it, that you have to bring a korban mila, asham milos, that you're not allowed to benefit from kachim, and if you do, you chayiv mila.
Oh, I see. Someone who benefits from the
Truma, he does no korban, no nothing. And kores, if someone eats it, who's not supposed to, so he's chayiv kores, but by truma does not. By truma is going to be misa b'dei shemayim, but kores is more severe. We'll see that soon. And the last thing is also onin, that kachim is also for onin to eat, and truma is mutter for onin to eat. So here you have it, 6 things that kachim more than truma. So probably when the Torah is coming to say that there's no isser of benefiting it from when you're burning it b'tumah, it's not going to say kachim because kachim is very chomer. Probably it's only for truma as mutter. But the Gemara says on the contrary, I'll find things that are more chama by truma than kachim. Adrabba, truma loma meitna shekain machpaz. Here's another one. Machpaz. That's another mnemonic, and that's four things.
Who's arguing?
Nobody. The Gemara is not challenging. Who says kachim is more chama than truma? And there are four things that truma is more chama than kachim. Machpaz. What's machpaz? Mem ches pei zayin. What's that stand for? Misa, chomish, pidyon, elo pidyon, and zayin is a surah lezorim. So you're supposed to know that both of them is a surah. There's an only and here's a zorim. What does it mean? That misa b'dei shemayim. But the Gemara is going to say soon which is worse, koros and misa. But here the Gemara says that truma is chai misa b'dei shemayim and kachim is not. Kachim is koros. Everyone could jump up.
By numbers,
What?
six against
The
four.
Gemara is going to say that. The Gemara is going to say 6 against 4. But so far the Gemara is presenting the side that truma also has chumas over kachim. 1, 2, 3, 4. Misa. Someone eats meat. The zar eats truma is chai misa b'dei shemayim, but kachim is not. The kachim is going to be koros. Number 2, chomish. That if somebody ate truma by mistake, he has to pay a chomish, and the korban is not. And ein lo pidyon, there's no way to be paid the truma, but there is a way to be paid the kachim. If kachim became possible, it could be paid the korbanos, but you can't be paid the truma. And the last one, asur l'zorim, that truma is also to non-kohen, but kachim, korbanos sometimes is mutter. There are parts of the korbanos, some korbanos that he was allowed to eat, like I said before. So who says that kachim was more common than truma? Maybe truma was more than kachim. The answer is hanach nefishin, 6 against 4. These are more. You have 6 against numbers. You go with the numbers. You're right. You have 4 things, but it's a 6 against 4. Iboy sema koros adifa. One other there says that koros is more common than misa b'dei shemayim, and that's more than everything. They hear the punishment is koros. It's also part of the 6, but it's also a knockout. Right. Even if it would be 6 against 6, this one is a knockout. The koros is
better reason
why kachim is also right. It's more than and that comes out. That's the reason why we do know that something's coming to be mutter, and onain is something's mutter. Which one? Truma's mutter. So it comes out that kachim also is not only is not allowed to eat kachim, he's not allowed to eat ma'aser sheni, but he may eat truma. An onain may eat truma.
Oh, so that's a second question. Oh, no, it may eat truma. We didn't say about our.
No. We're out. We're on a cruise now. We're not in that sugya. We're on a cruise. With us going in the Mishnah and Bikurim because we mentioned this. So
it's less things. So different. Onan can eat truma.
Truma, right? And now, right? And then it also said, but a truma doesn't have these 2 chumras. These 2 chumras that we spoke about over here. The last one was about ochlan betumas atzman loka, that if somebody who eats ma'aser sheni, which is tamei, he's chayv malchus. We started rush about that, and truma not. That if you eat truma when the truma is tamei, so it's not chayv malchus. But the Gemara is going to say, but it is also to do it. Just not chayv malchus. That means it's going to be an asay. It's not going to be a lo asay. That's last Gemara now. The ochlan betumas atzman loka mashekim truma. So the Gemara says in first from this. Milk lo lucky, or Yisur that says no malchus, but it says you're not allowed to do it. Means you're not allowed to eat truma when it's tamei. Even if you're Torah, you're not allowed to eat truma tamei. How do you know? Over there it says that you may eat it by the kachim sulim. Over the kachim sheniftu over there, it says that you may eat it even if it's tamei. But it says tochlenu. The lenu is this. You may eat it when it's tamei, but something else not. But it's only inferred. It's only that it implies. It implies that something else is asa, but it doesn't say do not eat it. So that's the regular klal called lava b'machlala say. It's a negative commandment which is inferred from a positive commandment. It says kachim sulim you may eat tamei, and we imply from that there's something else you may not. But it's only taking it as an inference. So therefore lava b'machlala say I say if it's a negative commandment which is inferred or implied from a positive commandment, it only has the severity of a positive commandment. So someone is not allowed to eat truma, which became tamei, even though he's tahor, but not the severity of a lo saseh, the severity of an aseh. And then the last end of the Gemara, that was all a cruise going on to explain the Mishnah in Bikurim. And then with the last thing we did already, the Rav Ashi said goes back to the point that we were learning before, is the idea of the fact that the Mishnah Bikurim doesn't say truma and Bikurim against Meiser. It doesn't say that their chomer that are oral may not eat truma and Bikurim. And it doesn't say that by Meiser the Orel may eat it. Why doesn't it say it? So we said Tana Bashir, it's not an exhaustive list. Before the whole Gemara went that the non-exhaustive is only proved from the next Mishnah. And Rav Ashi comes to say that this Mishnah also shows that it's not exhaustive because it could have said 2 more things. It could have said that Truma and Bikurim apply every year, and Ma'aser Sheni only applies some of the years, 1, 2, 4, and 5. And also Elam Pidyon, that Truma and Bikurim cannot be redeemed, and Ma'aser Sheni could. Why doesn't it say it? It's not an exhaustive list. So that's the end of the sugya, that's the end of the day. And we didn't prove if Orwell is not Eatmeister or not. But tomorrow we will. Yashikar, everybody. Thank you. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes with Tehillim. Thank you. Thank you very much.